Huh?
30 seconds.
We'll be live in 30 seconds, more or less, thereabouts.
You know, when sometimes I watch the class here in the morning, and that you're 30 seconds, but it's already recorded.
Oh, is it?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So it's all...
Repeated it many times.
I've done it so many times. So,
Oh, well,
we are
there you go.
live here.
Scary to think. I'm trying to think, what was I saying in that first?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
What page, bro?
Well, in the yellow book, it's
Yep.
171.
171.
What song is it?
Hori Bitale, Janama
Joy.
Hari Bitale, Janama Goinu.
Hari Vipale Janama Gaino.
Manusha Janama Paya Radha Krishna Navajiya
Manusya Janama Paya Radha Krishna Navajiya.
Manusha Janama Paya Radha Krishna Navajiya
Manusya Janama Paya Radha Krishna Navajiya.
Janiya Shuniya Vishakaino
Janiya Shuniya Vishakaino.
Janiya Shuniya Vishakaino
Janiya Shuniya Vishakaino.
Golokera Prema Dana Harinama Sankirtana Golokera Prema Dana Harinama Sankirtana Ratina Janani Lokeno Ratina Janani Lokeno Sankara Vishana Divanishitiya Jwale Samsara Vishana Divanishitiya Jwale
Samsara Vishanale Divanishiniya Jale.
Uraite na koinu
Raite na koinu pai.
It's only a notional thing, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
It's a new year, but any excuse to try. And of course, everybody makes resolutions for New Year's resolutions and usually break them within a couple of weeks. The biggest one is, to lose weight. That's the big one. And everybody goes, somebody said, I joined the gym, I could part my New Year's resolution so I could get fit and get slim and everything. But I just forgot that you actually have to go to the gym to work, So, anyhow, but our best New Year's resolution is to try to be a little bit more Krishna conscious. Every day, we can try, that can be our vow, just 1%. Today I'll be 1%, try to be 1% more Krishna conscious than I was yesterday, and tomorrow, and then, in a year you should be 365% more Krishna conscious. That can't be a bad thing, can it? And that song, I remember, I'm sitting with Keshavananda Prabhu, we went to that, you took us to that temple of Narottam Thakur.
Yes, Radha Braja Mohan temple.
That was really special place, and I remember that day very much. A very kind of obscure part of Vrindavan, but very beautiful, small temple, beautiful temple of Narottam Thakur, his deity there. And it was the arti, and I sang that song. I remember that song. It was a very beautiful day. And if Krishna is kind, maybe again we'll go there sometime. That would be so nice.
Yes, Babu.
Yeah.
We just were singing this. Day and night, my heart burns from the fire of the poison of worldliness, and I have not taken the means to relieve it.
You too.
Well, I just thought maybe you can elaborate on that.
Well, yeah. You see, we think that that happiness will come by engaging our senses with the sense objects. We're conditioned to think that, actually. So, you know, every morning I read something from Bhagavad Gita. It's like one of the first things I do every morning. And this morning, the verse said there that, you know, that actually this is the cause of our misery in this world, is the misconception that we think that by engaging our senses with their sense objects, we'll find happiness. We'll get some satisfaction, but the converse or the inverse of that is true, actually. That if you're able to control your senses and be aloof to connecting them with their objects, then you'll be happy. Actually, you'll be happy if you don't do those things. And by pursuing those things, you know, sensual pleasure, you'll be unhappy, because it's, you know, so many advices in the scripture that you know, for like some flickering happiness, fleeting happiness, that we do so many, you know, like wicked things, and thinking that we'll get satisfaction from that. Jai Gurudev.
Joy.
The biggest thing is, the biggest trap actually is money. In Srimad Bhagavatam there is given that, you know, the four restrictions for human beings practicing human life. Dutam panam shriyam shunam. So dutam, it means gambling. So gambling, that's also in pursuit of money, right? Going to the betting shop and all of that. But it doesn't just mean gambling like that. It also means earning money by deceitful means, you know, like cheating others, engaging in crookedness, you know, dutam. And pana means intoxication. So that, you know, doesn't just mean, you know, going down the pub or, you know, getting drunk or whatever it is. And I see that. Everybody does that. Everybody is conditioned to think that, oh, you know, I need a drink. You know, and when anyone you see it on the television all the time, anyone has like some difficulty in their life, or the first thing they do is they have a drink, you know. I saw this interview with Michael Parkinson and Peter Sellers, you know, the comedian actor Peter Sellers, and he was asking him. He said, "Oh, I heard you had like some experience on the flight recently." He said, "Yeah, we were going in the flight, and suddenly the plane just dropped, and we thought we were all going to die, you know." Then he said, "So what did you do?" And Peter Sellers said, "I just started chanting Hare Krishna." And Mike Point said, "Oh, okay." They said, then the plane leveled out and everything was okay. He said, then what did you do? He said, "Then I had a stiff whiskey." So, you know, this is like, everybody thinks like that, you know. Whiskey or, you know, that will take the edge off, right? That will take the edge off. And especially when you're young, yeah, that's kind of like your measurement of enjoyment. Yeah, it was so great, I got so drunk, I can't remember a thing. It was fantastic. I didn't know anything about it. So pun, and that's kind of intoxication, but there are different kinds of intoxication too. Guru Maharaj says, the pursuit of sensual pleasure, that's also a type of intoxication. You get intoxicated by that. And then striyam, that means, like chasing girls, or, girls for boys, boys for girls, or nowadays boys for boys and girls for girls, then whatever, floats your boat, as they say, but that's why, there's the institution of marriage and all of these things, is to regulate that, so that we don't just become, like dogs in the street. There's some kind of control there to lead a civilized life. But and then shunam means animal slaughter. So the people think that, that's how we should live, right? We should live. We even had there was a program recently, and one Hindu man, he said to me, "Oh no, but why you have to be vegetarian? We are not vegetarian. Why you have to be vegetarian?" And he said, and I said, "Well, because it gives you like a beast-like mentality that makes you like a beast." Then he said, "Yeah, but for the children, for the I said, no, it's not necessary. We live in a world where everything is available, right? They don't need to do that. You can eat anything. There's so many. Everything is available. That means you don't have to eat, dead animals. And you think about it, really, if you just think about it, how gross that is to eat the corpse of another living being. That's so gross. And and we're also, people think that you need to do that to be healthy. But they did the World Health Organization, they did research over many years for that, and their conclusion was, how much animal fat that we need to be healthy? Exactly 0. This is not necessary in any way, shape, or form. And once some reporters, they asked Srila Prabhupada, but what about people that can't be vegetarian? Then they gave the example of Eskimos, right? They live there, they fish, right? They make a hole in the ice and they fish, they live in their igloo and all of these things. Probably the reality is they've also got a supermarket nearby as well, nowadays, where they can get anything. But let's just assume that that was their only source of food. Then Prabhupada said, yes, if there is nothing else, then it's okay to eat meat. And then they said, so if there was nothing else, you would eat meat? And he said, I'd rather die. So this is shunam. Shunam means killing, killing. When one of our god sisters, she bought this, she was married to an African prince at one time. And so like her niece was this princess from a tribe in Africa, and she bought bought her to meet Gurudev in Green Street. You remember?
Yeah.
And she's this princess, like then she came with her kind of entourage and everything, and then our god sister, she asked Gurudev, oh, they eat insects, part of their diet is they eat insects, is that okay? And Gurudev just said, no, not to kill. It should not kill, Then, okay. This is a basic thing. And of course, somebody could say, and they do, some people argue, well, a carrot is also a living thing, or a potato, or whatever. But nobody can reasonably argue that the life of a potato is the same as the life of a cow, or any animal with, sentience. It's almost debatable whether a carrot or a potato even know they exist. They're even aware of their own existence. But an animal with you know, senses, a mind, a nervous system, all these things that feels pain and all these things, then, you know, you can understand that life is more valuable, higher than that. And you can't live without killing something. Better to kill a carrot than to kill a cow. You know, and no sensible person could argue that, you know, against that. But anyhow, but these four things they're given in Srimad Bhagavatam. But then also there's a fifth thing. So Jutam Panam Striyam Shunam, and the fifth is Jata Rupam. That means hoarding gold, hoarding money. So that's what we're taught, right? That from our young age, by our family, by our teachers at school, by the politicians, everything, that you will be happy if you have independence and you have wealth. If you have money, then you can be happy. And this is one of the biggest lies that everybody believes. You know, get a good job with more pay and you're okay. And people tell you, you know, you can have anything you want in this world. As if you work hard, you can have everything you want. But that's also not true, is it? Because I'm sure everybody knows people who've worked hard their whole life and have absolutely nothing to show for that. They're just going hand to mouth from day to day, you know. And it's not that they're lazy. People work really hard, but they still don't get anything. You know, that's all about, you know, what's due to you according to your karma. You can't have more than your due, and you won't get less than your due. So Saraswati Thakur, he said that there's nothing you can do to bring about your karma. It's coming. There's nothing you can do to make that happen. And there's nothing you can do to stop that from happening. So don't waste your time trying to engage in that. You know, everyone has to do something, right, to live in the world, to move and live in the world. But you don't need to do more than you need to do. So, and if you do, it doesn't guarantee that you're going to get more. And Srila Prabhupada used to say, you may be Rockefeller, like he was, maybe now today you'd say, you may be Elon Musk, but at the end of the day, when you have your breakfast in the morning, you can still only eat 2 pieces of toast and drink 1 cup of coffee. Just having more doesn't give you more capacity for enjoying life, you know, because you still have that same capacity, whether you've got nothing or whether you've got millions. They put this in the time of you know, the government of Tony Blair. You know, New Labour was the new thing that everyone's thinking, oh yeah, this is going to be the saviour of our society. And so he appointed one of the lords as the happiness czar. And his remit was, find out what it is that makes people happy. And, you know, the premise was that wealth is what will make you happy. But when they actually came down to it, when he gave his findings, his conclusion was, no, it's not wealth that makes you happy. Certainly, if you're just living in the gutter with nothing, then yes, then to give somebody some money to raise them up will make them happier, healthier, and so on. But that's only true to a point. Just by giving more and more and more money doesn't make your happiness increase. There may be the illusion of that, or thinking, oh, I've got such a big bank balance, and, you know, then everything's going to be fine. And there are those people who never have to think, do I put the heating on or do I buy food? You know, but there are a lot of people who do think like that all the time, have to think like that. But I mean, some people, they never think about that. Oh, I want it, I'll have it, I'll just get that again. But that again is just a karmic thing, right? They're in that position because of what they've done in previous lives and so on. That's brought them to that. But there's no guarantee that that's going to give you fulfillment or happiness. Quite the reverse, actually. You see that people who are, extremely wealthy, they have to hire bodyguards, don't they? And they have to put a big wall around their house with barbed wire and to stop people coming in to try and take their wealth. I worked with this fellow a few years ago, and one day, we worked together. He was a really nice guy, and one day he says to me, he shows me on his phone, this is the car that I want to buy, right? So it's a big, what do you call that? Bentley, A Bentley, they're like these hand-built luxury cars, like the royal family all travel around in Bentleys. And this is like a convertible, where the top goes back and everything. And really a beautiful car, no doubt about it. And he said, this is what I want. This is like my aspiration in life to have this, And I asked him, where do you live? And he said, I live in Croydon. I said, okay, well, wouldn't you just be like completely afraid all the time that somebody's going to steal it or scratch it or damage, like this? He said, no. I'll just keep it in my garage and I won't drive it anywhere. I'll just, like maybe once or twice a year, I'll take it out on the road, and drive it around. And I said, and you don't think that that's insane? Like, really? And he just got a bit angry with me then. No, I don't think it's insane. That's what makes me happy. So, okay. So, as far as I know, he still doesn't have that Bentley. But that's what he wants in life, But who was it? That actor, Jim Carrey. So for all intents and purposes, this is a successful man in the material world, right? He's got fame, he's got wealth, he's got all the followers, he's got so many things. But he said, I wish that everybody could get everything they desired in life, just so they could understand that this isn't it. This isn't going to give you fulfillment. So this is from his own practical experience. He's saying that. So everybody's striving for that. And some people get it and some people don't get it. But even if you do get it, there's no guarantee that it's going to make you happy. We know so many stories. I remember, now it's the lottery, but when I was growing up, it was the pools, the football pools that everybody used to bet on, and people won the pools and had more wealth than they could ever dream of, and it ruined their lives. They don't know what to do with it, right? And you also hear about like these football players earning millions of pounds every week, and they don't know what to do with that money, and then they're involved in so many scandals, right? Because of that, because they don't know what they should be doing with that money. So what was her name? Anita Roddick, the founder of the Body Shop. That shop where they sell all the cosmetics and stuff, right? So she was just like a hippie, and she gathered all these like recipes and things for natural health products, and she founded the Body Shop. She went to the bank, asked them for a loan, they wouldn't give it to her. So because she was a hippie, right? They didn't think, she's going to get anywhere with that. So her husband dressed him up in a suit and tie and gave him a nice shave and everything, and he went to another bank with the same proposal. They gave him the loan, right? Because it's all about optics, isn't it? And she made a big empire for herself, but then she died of hepatitis. Is it hepatitis C, the one that kills you? Anyway, she contracted that from having a blood transfusion with the contaminated needle. She contracted that. So then she knows she's dying, right? So she's got this big fortune, and she said, "Oh, if I die with all that money in the bank, that'll just be an obscenity. So before I die, I want to give it all away for good causes." And that's what she did. She made a kind of charity foundation and gave all her money away before she died. So when I was in Kiev a few years ago, then we were you know, were giving lectures at this Veda Life Festival organised by Avadut Maharaj. And they had this big stage, right? Then we all had like an hour slot to give a talk on this stage. So when I was giving this talk, incredibly, like so many people attending that, young people usually, like in their 20s or 30s, and they're like hungry for spiritual life, because previously they were living in a communist country where religion was outlawed. You couldn't be religious like outwardly and so on. It was against the law, actually against the law. But you know, after the fall of communism and everything, so you know, then Ukraine became independent to the Soviet Union or the Republic of Russia, whatever it's called now. And so you know, but these people, they bought up on the communist idea, right? So then, when I was giving a talk, this young man asked me a question, and his question was, is it sinful if I have more money than my neighbor? So it is a kind of like post-communist thinking, right? Because communism thinks that everyone has to be the same, equal, except in reality some people are a bit more equal than others, aren't they? You know, but anyhow, that was his question, and it was a genuine question that was like taxing him. And my reply to him was, no, it's not about how much wealth you have, whether you have more money than your neighbor, or what you do with it. What you do with what you have, that's what determines whether it's good or bad, isn't it? So, you know, if you have a lot of money and you use it for good causes, then great, but you can have a lot of money and just use it for selfish things, you know, and for sinful things. That's why that's mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, Jata Rupam, because all of the other four things, they're all become automatically available to you if you have wealth, right? Then you can do anything. If you have wealth, you can, and do anything, you know, because people don't know what to do with all of that money. And they think, well, I'll just use it for, you know, more and more pleasure in life. You know, that's what life's all about, isn't it? Finding pleasure. And of course, that's true. It is true, because we are by nature pleasure seekers. Can't help that. We can't stop that. We can't deny that. Everybody wants that. So, you know, this is Srila Sridhar Maharaj. He uses this, the phrase there, rasa. Rasa. Rasa can mean so many things. It's a very difficult word to translate in English. But really it means like juice, you know, like the thing that we're all wanting, rasa. You know, even like the gravy in your sabji, that's called rasa, right? So then, anything like pleasure, you can call that rasa. So Guru Maharaj says everybody's searching after rasa, you know. So, but the thing is, we don't know where to look for that. Right? We're always looking outward, thinking if I get this thing, or I have that thing, or I can utilize this, or exploit that, and so on, then I'll get that rasa that I'm searching for, you know. So people think that, oh, you know, if I'm wealthy and I have my independence and I can have all the things that I desire, and as Guru Maharaj says, you know, if I'm looking down for people and things to exploit all the time, you know, servants and you know, those who can serve me, things that can serve me, then I'll be happy in life. But Guru Maharaj says the opposite is true. We should be looking upwards to see who it is there that we can serve. And service is the natural constitution of all living beings, especially in the human form of life. So, you know, Srila Prabhupada used to give that example, and nobody is free from that. The tendency to serve is always there, or a whole society is constructed around that. You know, one serves another. So he would say, So you can serve your country, or you can serve your community, or you can serve your family, or you can serve your boss at work, or, you know, like there's always someone there to serve. And he said, and those that don't have anyone to serve, they buy a dog or a cat and serve him, you know, so, because this is our nature to serve. But we don't know who we should serve. And we're thinking, you know, that there has to be some, you know, what do you say, like reciprocation there, right? You scratch my back and I'll scratch your back. So this is kind of like a symbiotic exploitation, mode of exploitation. We're all living in that world of exploitation, generally, you know, and it's just a matter of fact. You cannot live without exploiting someone or something else in this world. We live by exploitation. There's no way around that. One jivo jivasya jivanam, one living entity is food for another. The big dog eats the little dog. So everybody wants to be the biggest dog that they can on the block, isn't it? You know, you don't want to end up in a tin of pedigree chum. You want to be the big dog at the top. Then you can eat all the little dogs. And then this is the way of the world. And without that, no one can live. You can't live without exploiting another. Some people try. Like in India, they have this sect of people called the Jains. Maybe you've heard of them, right? They're followers of Mahavir. So their idea is, you know, that we have to just like only do good and not do anything that will cause a bad reaction in the environment. So that means, right, that they wear like a mask over their face so that they won't kill any microbes or anything just by breathing. This is one thing. They wear ankles around their bells around their ankles, so that when they're walking, they can warn any insect, you know, by the sound of the bell. I don't know whether insects can hear bells or whatever, but you know, that's the idea, right? That you can do that. And those who are really like strict, the monks, they won't even eat some fruit unless it's fallen from the tree, because they consider plucking the fruit as an act of violence. They won't do that. But if it falls from the tree, oh, that's the gift of the tree, then I can take it, like that, you know. So they try and live their life like that. But even that is not free of karmic reaction, because who does that tree belong to in the first place? That they're taking that, even if the fruit drops from that. Everything is the property of Krishna, right? So the only way to prevent that is by offering everything in the service of Krishna. So this is generally people thinking, by exploitation I will live. So we're trained to be the best exploiters that we can be. You know, that's what we're taught that at school, how to exploit. And we're taught that. Everybody's taught that, you know, it's just an accepted part of life. So, you know, then and that's kind of acceptable. But people don't understand that everything that we do has a reaction. Everything, good or bad, there must be some reaction to that. There's Newton's third law, isn't it? You know, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So this is a fact. As you sow, so shall you reap. So then, if you think, okay, then I'll only do good, then okay, but that also will bind you to the world, because you'll have to be born again to reap the reward of your good deeds too. So you're still going in the cycle of birth and death, birth and death, birth and death. It's not the answer. So then Guru Maharaj says a more sober class of person will think, That exploitation is a filthy thing. I should leave that and renounce the world, renounce action, renounce karma, renounce this exploiting tendency within us. That is maybe ideally a good idea, but it's very impractical, because we don't live, as they say, no man is an island, right? We live in a community of people. And so if you think, okay, well, I'll go and find a cave and live in a cave and just, meditate there and, eat the fruit that drops from the tree, or whatever it is, your way, or even learn to just live on air. There are people who can do that. Pranayama, they can do that. Breatharians, they call that, it was very famous in the 70s and 80s, was this man, I don't know if some of you might remember, his name was Viktoras Kulvinskas, and he wrote a book about how you can just live on prana. That means sunlight. That you just, you go naked basically, and the body absorbs everything it needs from the sun, and you just drink some water because you need water. That's all. And he lived like for a long time. I don't know if he's still alive now, but that was his solution to that. But there are people in India, the sages and rishis, who live in caves still, somewhere in the Himalayas. You can still find them. But for most people, that's highly impractical thing to, because before you know it, some guy in a suit will be knocking on your cave door asking if you've paid your cave tax. Or, they want to see the papers that say that you have permission to stay in this cave, isn't it? So, then, so for most people that's impractical. But even if it is possible, it's not possible to live in this world without making any reaction to the environment. So Guru Maharaj compares the two. So it's like if you work for somebody, and while the boss is away, you rob him. You take money from the till, or you steal the goods and everything. People do that, don't they? But that means that the business probably that you work for is going to fail, because all the staff are stealing from it, right? So that's probably going to fail. Then you say, on the other hand, to refuse to work, to go on strike, that means the business is also going to fail ultimately. And I'm not talking about, the rights and wrongs of people going on strike. Sometimes they need to do that. But the result of that is that the business isn't going to prosper. The only way that the business is going to prosper is that if everybody works together for the business to succeed. And that, that's kind of an ideal way of, living. But so in that same example, Guru Maharaj is giving that. But exploitation is like robbing the hand that feeds you, right? Biting the hand that feeds you, as they say. And renunciation is like going on strike. Both things are unnatural. So if not by exploitation and not by renunciation, then the only other alternative is dedication. That everything you have to dedicate to the service of the higher. So this example has been given in Srimad Bhagavatam, that if you want to water a tree, you have to give water to the roots of the tree. Not that you can't water every leaf and branch separately. It won't work. Or the other example, also given in the Bhagavatam, is that when you to nourish the body, you have to give food to the stomach, because that's the central distribution of the energy of your food comes from the stomach. So you can't just take your food and hold it in the palm of your hand and hope by some kind of process of osmosis that you'll ingest all of the vitamins and everything that you need. It won't work, will it? It won't work. You don't even have to be told that. Everybody knows instinctively food goes in here and this is how it's distributed to all parts of the body. So similarly, we have to go to the root of everything. That's Krishna. Ishvara Parama Krishna, Satchidananda Vigraha, Anadir Adir Govinda, Sarva Karana Karana. Sarva Karana Karana means the cause of everything, the cause of all causes. That's Krishna. This is the opinion of Lord Brahma. Sarva Karana Karana. He is the cause of everything. So if we offer everything to him, then everything will become prosperous and perfect. Vishwam Purnam Sukhayate. The whole universe will become joyful if the central figure is satisfied with us. This is the only alternative to exploitation and to renunciation is dedication. This is the middle path. Not by exploitation, not by renunciation, but by dedication. So now when we see anything in the environment, we look at it with an eye of, can I exploit this? And not just things, but people too. We may not use that expression, but we think before we enter into a relationship with someone, is this going to benefit me? And before I take something from the environment, will it benefit me to do that? And if we think it will, then we engage it, or we enter into a relationship with that person. And if we think it won't, we don't. So this is the vision that we have. Habitually we have this vision, looking at everything and everyone in this way. But we have to change our vision, that instead of everything being there for our use, we have to try to see everything as being the ingredients for satisfying our Lord. And that's why we exist, actually. And this is the real difference between material life and spiritual life. When we see that everything is meant for his satisfaction, this is a kind of a bitter pill for us to swallow, right? That everything is meant for one, not for us. Everything is meant to satisfy him, not to satisfy us. And who is that one? That's what we have to determine. Who is it that we are meant to satisfy? That is Krishna. Why do we say that? So, Guru Maharaj was very fond of the German philosopher Hegel, as you know, right? So then Hegel says if God exists, he must possess two qualifications. That is, he must be for himself and by himself. For himself means whatever he does, whatever he creates, everything is meant only for his satisfaction. For himself. Not for anybody else, only for him. And by himself means no one to rival him. Now this is, it doesn't mean that he's alone, but it means that everything is meant for his satisfaction and no one else can rival him. Like in Judeo-Christian theology, there's God and there's Satan, right? So Satan's like the anti-God, if you like. And so their idea is, if he gets enough followers, the wicked Satan, if he gets enough supporters, he can kick God out of heaven and he can reign instead. He can take God's throne, reign in darkness forever, then he gets the upper hand. But this is like a kind of dualism, and it's foolish, actually. It's foolish. God exists by himself. There's no one can rival him. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, we doubt that such a huge personality as Satan even exists. If there is some kind of devil, it's the devil within ourselves. But let's say that he does exist, even if there is, he's still subordinate to Krishna. He can't exist as a rival to Krishna. Many demonic people think like that. Like Ravan, like Kamsa, all of these. They thought that maybe they can kill God, right? That Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, they all thought maybe I can kill Vishnu and I can be the supreme instead. But we know that's a kind of a, I mean, it's Leela, of course, but it is a kind of fantasy. There's no one can rival him. In a moment, he can change everything. Let there be light, there was light. Let there be water, there was water. So, you know, just by his willing it, it happens. So then if we accept these two criteria that Hegel gave, that must be for himself and by himself, Krishna fits that perfectly. He's for himself. He's the supreme enjoyer of everything. The Akila Rasamrita Murti. And he's by himself, meaning no one can rival him. Whoever they think they are, no one is a rival to Krishna. So then that means that all of his creation, and it is a creation, you know, whether it happened by, you know, evolution or whatever it is that they say happened, still it had to come from somewhere, right? This is a basic thing that we're taught as children in science, right? Nothing can exist in the effect that doesn't already exist in the cause. This is a scientific principle, right? So then whatever happened, the cause of that, the potential existed there already. However it happened, you know, like, even if they say, you know, it happened over billions of years of evolution, the cause of that, how do you explain that, you know? Then, so Sridhar Maharaj, he always says, it comes down to this fundamental principle of consciousness. Explain consciousness. Guru Maharaj said he heard these two men arguing. One saying, oh yeah, I believe in God. And another one saying, no, I don't believe in God. I doubt that God exists. Then Guru Maharaj, he entered their conversation and he said, my question to you is, the man who says that I doubt that God exists. My question is, does the doubter exist? If you doubt that God exists, okay, but do you exist? Then if you say, well, yes, of course I exist, then explain that. Explain how you exist. This is everything existing within consciousness, isn't it? You know, the very question about whether God exists or not is a question in consciousness. So consciousness is the primary substance. Where does that come from? And it doesn't evolve from nothing, because nothing in the effect cannot be there already in the cause. So consciousness is the primary substance, if you like. And he is, Chaitanya means consciousness. He is consciousness, the supreme consciousness. So we're all existing within his consciousness. It is all part of his consciousness. Then he exists for himself and by himself. And that means that he is the cause, sarva karana karanam, he's the cause of everything. Everything that exists, he's the cause of that. So that means that everything exists to fulfill his purpose. And as we are part of that creation, that means we also exist to satisfy him. We can say, I am for him. It's not that he is for me, I am for him. This was John Kennedy, you know, the President of the United States back in the 60s. He famously said, do not ask what your country can do for you, but rather ask, what can I do for my country? And Guru Maharaj took that and saying, do not ask what Krishna can do for you, but rather ask, what can I do for Krishna? And this is fundamental to our existence, why we exist. We exist to contribute to his satisfaction. You might say, like, how is that possible? You know, I'm a very small, tiny, insignificant living being. How can I contribute to his satisfaction? He's already self-satisfied, right? He has already everything that he needs. But it's fact that you are created by him. That means you have a purpose. And that purpose is to give fulfillment to him. You have some part to play, integral part to play in that, however insignificant you may be. You have some part to play in his satisfaction. And Krishna consciousness gives us the opportunity to discover what that is. You know, it's not that immediately you'll understand. We understand the principle that I am for him, but in what way am I for him? What does that translate to in our actual life? In our day-to-day going around the world, living and breathing, and all, how does that translate into I am for him? So this is the adventure of Krishna consciousness gives us that opportunity to understand that. And how will we understand that? Through his holy name. It's a very abstract idea. You know, Guru Maharaj said, it's like a madman's idea. By knowing one thing, you know everything. And by getting one thing, you get everything. Is that possible even? Is that not insane to say such a thing? But that's our proposal. If you know Krishna, you know everything. And if you have Krishna, you have everything. This is possible in this age especially, simply by chanting his holy name. Because it is not just words, not just a dead sound. It is him himself. Krishna and Krishna's name are one and the same. So by chanting Krishna's name purely, then that name will inspire us to understand who we are and what is our purpose in life. We can understand that, we can know that, but first of all we have to get rid of all the other stuff that's already there. All the stuff that's already there, that has to go first of all. That's the difficult part. That's called anartha nivriti, removal of those things. Guru Maharaj used that example. He said, I heard that in Germany there was a music school. You've heard this example, right? And in this musical school, they would give a different rate of, how much it would cost to teach somebody the principles of music. So when some prospective student would come there, they would ask, the principal of the music school would say, so what do you know about music? And he said, well, I learned to read music, I can play the piano, I can do this, all the things that I can do. Okay, then your fee will be $200 a week, let's say, right? For me to teach you at my school. Then the other guy comes and he said, what do you know about music? He said, nothing at all. Haven't got a clue. Don't know anything at all about music. Have no previous experience, nothing. Then they say, okay, your fee will be $50 a week. Then the $200 a week guy says, oh, why is that? I know so much already about music and you're charging me 4 times as much as this guy knows. He said, yeah, because first of all, you have to unlearn all that stuff that you know already. Then I can teach you. You have to be like a blank slate. What do they call that? Tambula rasa, right? Tambula rasa means a blank slate. Then we can teach you. So first of all, we have to get rid of all our misconceptions, our prejudices, all of that conditioning that we've built up over lifetimes that make us who we think we are today. We think we are these opinions, that's who I am, these habits, that's who I am, all these things, these conditioned things that I've accepted, that's who I am, but that's all false. It's all false. And so they'd say, oh, an old dog can't learn new tricks or something like that, right? And it is true that the more you've identified with that, the more difficult it is. That's why it's good to begin learning about Krishna consciousness from a young age. Even Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, very difficult for anyone over the age of 40 to accept Krishna consciousness. Why? Because they've already formulated all their ideas about what life is. It's already there, you know. Before that, it's a general term, of course, but before that, we're not so fixed. We don't know, do we? Some people don't know what they're meant to be doing, what their life's meant to be, all of these things. Still in flux. So, and also, he also said, very difficult for anyone who has a Western education to accept the principle of guru. Because guru means that one person, you have to submit to them everything, or they'll teach you how to think, they'll teach you how to act, all of these things. And anyone with the Western education is think for yourself, right? Question everything. And those aren't bad things, those are good things. But if they bring us to the right conclusion. But in India, you find it's a different thing. People come and when they accept their guru, that's it. There's no more questions. Once you've accepted a guru, you just serve. Now you just serve. Srila Govinda Maharaj said that this is our habit here. When you become a disciple, now your life is about serving your guru. So the question should be before that, before you come to that point. But when the Western people came to Guru Maharaj, they had so many questions. And he said that was to our benefit, because that was when Guru Maharaj was able to show his wealth, and share his wealth. We learned so many things that otherwise we may not have learned. And Srila Govinda Maharaj himself, he said, so there were some points that I'd heard from Guru Maharaj that I could never quite understand properly, but when I read them in his English explanation of that, then I understood it. So I don't know what that point was, but he said I read it in the Golden Volcano, and I'd heard that point so many times from Guru Maharaj, but when I read it in English, that's when it clicked. Oh, that's what it So, then that's one benefit of Western education, is that we are told to question, not to just accept everything. Then that can be a good thing also. But still, that principle, guru-disciple principle, is very difficult for the Western mind to accept that. And not least of all because there are so many cheaters, So many people, like Srila Govinda Maharaj said, anyone can make a big chair for themselves and, put on some red cloth and carry a stick and say, I'm guru. And who are we to understand who is and who isn't? So, then some discrimination necessary for us also to be there. Sincerity. We need to be sincere. So Srila Sridhar Maharaj would say, no one can cheat you unless you're in the market to be cheated. And that's one of the failings of human beings, is we want something quick and cheap, don't we? We want it right now. We want something quick and we want something cheap. So we're often ready to accept some imitation thing because it makes us feel good about ourselves, right? Guru Maharaj say there are many so-called gurus out there ready to take their money from their disciples. Then make you feel good about yourself, flatter you, tell you all the things you need to know about yourself. This is like they use this in advertising, isn't it? You need this product because you're worth it, right? So that's their actual line, right? Because you're worth it. But we don't need that. We don't need that kind of cheap flattery. A real guru will never flatter the disciple, telling them how great they are and everything. But that's what our ego wants. Our ego wants to be told how great we are. Oh, the best guru is who's told me how great I am. The word guru actually means heavy. And he is guru, we are lagu. Lagu means light. So lagu must connect with guru. The light has to connect with the heavy. And heavy means that sometimes we don't want to hear those things, isn't it? When you're asleep, deeply asleep, you don't want somebody to wake you up. I remember that. You know, my daughters, when they were younger, in the morning time we'd wake them for school. You know, sometimes sometimes they would say, "Dad, I'm having a really important dream. Why are you waking me up?" No, you have to wake up. It's time to go to school. Then they come, have their breakfast. And I said, "So what was that really important dream you had?" "Oh, I can't remember even what it was now." You know? And then we don't like it to be woken up, but we're dreaming. You know, saying like sleeping on the lap of Maya, and Guru will come and wake you. But we don't want to be woken. I don't want to wake up. I'm having a very important dream. One of our godbrothers, just no, I'm running over again, but just to end it this way, we were in Navadvip, and this godbrother, he used to sleepwalk, you know. So in the middle of the night, we heard this like blood curdling scream, you know, and everyone come running in the middle of the night, and this devotee, he was like on the floor outside the Nat Mandir, and he's still asleep. The tigers are coming! You know, then someone woke him up, and he said, "What?" And he said, "Oh yeah, I was dreaming. I was being attacked by a tiger." You know, and okay. So anyway, that next evening, Srila Govinda Maharaj is walking around, like going to the different rooms and visiting the devotees, and this devotee, he was staying in a room above the Nat Mandir. You know, there's a few rooms up there. So he's staying in one of those rooms, and he's got like a cot, a wooden cot that he's sleeping on. And so when Srila Govinda Maharaj comes into the room, he's tying his leg to the bed, right, with some cloth, tying around his ankle, tying it to the bed. And Govinda Maharaj says to him, "Prabhu, what are you doing?" And he said, "Oh, maybe you heard last night, you know, I jumped off the balcony in my sleep, you know. I was dreaming that the tiger was coming." And he said, "So if I tie myself to the bed, then, you know, I won't be able to jump off the balcony again, you know." So then Gurudev just said to him, "Prabhu, just sleep downstairs, then jumping, no problem." He was very practical, my Gurudev was very practical. So yeah, we make things very complicated. Yeah, jumping, no problem if you're on the ground. Anyway, so. Well, I wasn't going to speak about that at all today. Your question was a good question.
Yeah, and I was thinking, like, because you were mentioning all these things we are attached to in the material world, and we all coming from there. The devotees also coming from that influence of Maya in our lives.
Yeah.
So be it whatever what you were mentioning, and so and to refer here to day and night my heart burns from the fire of the poison of worldliness, and I have not taken the means to relieve it. So, but it is like, seems then also how much you want it and how much you're suffering to really say, okay, now I make some more stronger measurement in my life, or resolutions, or what, to really go for this, to really see this is, I think, a lot of devotees, friends of devotees, they know better than Krishna consciousness, it does not exist. Maybe don't know yet so fully, but it is. And then how much we need, how can we make ourselves strong to relieve ourselves from the poison of worldliness, from our suffering. So what would you say?
You have to associate with those who have that conviction. Srila Guru Maharaj told us 99.9% of your advancement in Christian consciousness will depend on your association. So this is very important, not just who you associate with, but what you associate with. That means what you allow into your consciousness. That's the important thing. And also when you're dealing with the Absolute, you have to be submissive to that, not going always in a challenging way, looking to find holes in the philosophy or whatever it is, But it is not so simple always for us, because we're not simple. Christian consciousness is very simple for those who have simple hearts. But we make our life so complicated, isn't it? In so many ways, that we make we make a rod for our own back, so to say. And we have to become convinced that nothing else can benefit us in this life. As long as we've still got our own plans and our own little schemes that we think will give us something, then we're not going to be able to give ourselves fully to that, And the truth is, we're addicted to the things of this material world, and especially we're addicted to comfort and convenience. These two things. We want some convenience and comfort in our lives. We don't want to go outside of that, because that might be a bit painful to us. And even Guru Maharaj says, following Krishna consciousness means you'll be subjected to something a little painful. Sadhana means that, it's a kind of painful thing. Sadhana, easier not to do that. Easier to find some convenient and comfortable situation. But sadhana means you have to make some little sacrifice, not much sacrifice, but some sacrifice, Then because the prospect of joy is always there underneath that, although now at the moment it may be a little uncomfortable and a little difficult for us, still we have to submit to that. There's no other way, But we have to understand what the anarthas are in our life, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur has categorized those as four kinds of anarthas in the life of a sadhaka. One is, first one, fundamental misidentification of the self. Thinking that we're our body, and although we may think philosophically, no, I'm the spirit, I'm not the body, I'm not that, but the reality is, when we look in the mirror, we still think that's us looking back, right? And we're still thinking in that way, all of those things, right? That's the first thing, not misidentification of the self. The second is the desire to enjoy the things of this world. The things that are here in this world, we still want those things, We still think that there's something to be had from that, whatever it is, We still think there's something that will give us some satisfaction there. Then the third is aparad, that to make offense. We know there's so many offenses we can make, offense to the holy name, offense to the Guru, offense to the Vaishnavas, offense to the service, so many offenses, right? And the fourth one, which I really think is the most difficult of all, Bhaktivinoda Thakur calls it weakness of heart. That I know what I'm meant to do. I know what's required of me. But you know what? Just can't really be bothered. Can't be bothered with that. That's a really difficult one, isn't it? You know, so I'm all right as I am. You know, I'm fine as I am. I don't need to do any of these things. We'll let the cards fall where they will. You know. Then, what can you do about that? You know, what's the cure for that? I don't know what the cure. Actually, I do know what the cure is for that. But the cure is to associate with those that don't feel like that. That those who are convinced about the path of Krishna consciousness and take it seriously and are willing to make the sacrifices, self-sacrifices needed for that. You know, in this world, people make so many sacrifices for things that they think are desirable, isn't it? If you want to be a lawyer or a doctor, or, you know, like how many years of your life do you have to sacrifice for that? Study and, you know, let's say to be a doctor, so much study, then so much work. You know, you have to work in the hospital. You know, junior doctors are renowned for working these ridiculously long shifts and not sleeping. But they do that because they think that the end of it will be something valuable, isn't it? But then should we think that Krishna consciousness is going to demand less of us than that? The reality is to demand more of us than that. Because even when you're doing all of that, you still have to make your way in the world. There's no way around that. So, but it does demand something of us. Something from our side has to be there. We can't just expect that everything will come to us on a plate. And even if it does come to us on a plate, we're often, yeah, but you know, there's a plate of something else over here that I'd like to have a go at first. You know, so it is a conundrum, you know, that weakness of heart. What can we do? Because we're already locked into a pattern of behavior and a pattern of thinking and all of these things. It demands something more of us. So even Sridhar Maharaj says, you know, to expect somebody to be able to give their whole life for this is a very rare thing. It's a very rare thing. But, you know, what do we want? That's what we have to really consider finally. What is it we want in our life? Am I satisfied with what I have now? Am I satisfied with that? Or is there something inside me that still wants something divine, something incredible? That's what it is, right? Krishna consciousness is something incredible. But we're thinking, you know, I don't know. I'm not really sure that really, if it's for me or if it can be possible for me. Especially we heard Guru Maharaj saying, you know, what we're striving for, almost impossible to get that. Lord Shiva saying, I haven't got that. Lord Brahma, I haven't got that. The Vedas personified saying to Krishna, please forgive us. We couldn't understand who you were. Our job is to give you to the world, but we couldn't do it because we don't really understand who you are. So, you know, it really demands a lot of grace. And we can only get grace, we can invoke grace by how much we can try to give ourselves to that.
But I remember in my life that going through all the different difficulties in the years, that Krishna consciousness always helped by you know, you cultivate and you make them hopefully a little bit more progress, you understand more. I mean, a little bit more because you're dealing with the infinite characteristics, but it helps so much in every way, in every situation.
Of course, yes.
Every stage.
Yes. Yeah, and that's our fortune, isn't it? That happens in our life. But it's not easy to become complacent about it. And you know, we can always find some reason not to do that in life. But we just have to, sometimes we just have to wait for a more favourable wave of life to come to us.
Or maybe also to be a bit more desperate.
Yeah, but something has to trigger that, doesn't it? That desperation. That's what Srila Govinda Maharaj said about Prabhupada Swami Maharaj. He was a desperate man. He's desperate for Krishna. You have to be desperate, it's true. But what will trigger that desperation, you know? And especially we live in a very kind of, you know, society where everything's pretty easy for us, actually.
For a lot of people, not for you, Abhijit, but for a lot of people, not.
Yeah, but you know, when you think about it, there's not so much we have to do, really, to live, to exist, you know? And you see people, you know, like here we live for our leisure time, right? That's the reward of our labor is leisure, right? But in other places, like in India, some people, they just live to survive, isn't it? And not just India, many places. People live just to survive. They're not thinking, oh, when the weekend comes, I'm going to go to Barry Island, you know, have some fun or whatever. They're thinking, when the weekend comes, I'm going to be sitting here selling these carrots like I was every other day, isn't it? So, you know, then that again is, comes down to karma. So, you know, the Western world is often referred to as karma bhumi, the place where people live out their karma, you know, and India is like dharma bhumi. There people have to do dharma, practice dharma, but you know, and practicing that, and everyone's just getting on fine, thanks very much, you know. But sometimes that's not the best thing for us, you know. But living in the world, in this material world, on the earth is perfect for cultivation of Krishna consciousness, because it's not too difficult that we're so absorbed in our suffering. Can't think of anything else but our suffering. And it's not too much enjoyment that we can't think of anything else except our enjoyment. We experience a little bit of heaven and hell in this world, but not too much that we become overwhelmed by it. In heaven, in Swarga, the people are enjoying so much, they're not really thinking about spiritual life. They may be enjoying in a very celestial, heavenly way. They're not thinking so much about spiritual life. In hell, people are suffering so much they can't think about spiritual life. But here is a kind of a middle ground, right? That you get some time, you can think about your spiritual life. And if people say, well, there's no such thing as heaven, no such thing as hell, I would ask them that you ask the people living in the Gaza Strip, if they're living in heaven or hell, what will they say? We're living in hell. That is hell. They're living in hell. And you ask people like you know, Elon Musk, everyone living with everything that you could ever dream of, given to you on a plate. Are you in heaven or are you in hell? He's in heaven. He's living in heaven. Then it does exist. We see it here in the world. Some people living a heavenly existence. Some people living a hellish existence. But for most of us, it's somewhere in between. And that affords us the opportunity to try and practice Krishna consciousness. So it is the ideal place. And this Kali Yuga is the ideal time, because it's never been more easily available. In other ages, spiritual life was very hard. And in this age, it's very easy. I mean, comparatively very easy. So, Although there are so many bad things about this age, but one good thing is simply by doing the kirtan of Lord Krishna, you can achieve the highest goal of life. And that's not so much, right? Chanting Hare Krishna, not so difficult. Doesn't demand any real austerity to do that. Anyone can do that. And still get the highest benefit from that. As the Super is said, you know, that therefore that the gods in heaven are praying to take birth here in this earth, to take part in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan movement. So, you know, let's not waste the opportunity that we have. Let's try and take advantage of that as much as we can. And that's the thing, you see, that Krishna confirms in the Gita. The more you do, the more you get. Right? The more you practice Krishna consciousness, the more you'll get from that. That he says even a little practice on this path can save you from the greatest fear. There's Mahabhayam, and in Guru Maharaj's explanation of this verse, he says Mahabhayam means the fear of death. Everyone is mortal here, fearful of death coming, but a little practice of Krishna consciousness makes you fearless of death. There's another transition. You don't need to worry, especially if you practice Krishna consciousness. Janma karma jame divyam, Krishna says. If you understand my janma, my birth, and my karma is not like your birth or your karma, but it is divyam, it is divine. All my activities are divine. My birth is divine. If you understand that, if you have faith in that, you never have to take birth in this world again. This is Krishna says that. And if you can't believe Krishna, then who can you believe? So that's all. That's all. You just have to have faith in that. But faith is not just what you believe, it's what you do. The real test of faith is how you live, how you move in the world. Everyone say, I believe in this, I believe in that, but you have to be what you believe. That's an important thing. You have to believe, and you have to be what you believe. Otherwise, this just doesn't really have any meaning. Yeah. You can believe in anything. But be what you believe. Hare Krishna. We stop now. Go on all evening, afternoon. We should. Jai Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakha Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Jai Gaura Premanandi. Hari. Jai Sri Guru Granga Sundara Pranta
John.
Oi. Oh.
Rajasri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Premanande. Jai Saparika Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Sundar Radha Giridhari Jiyo Ki Jai. Tvadiya Madana Bhoga Arati Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Vajasto Tadasata Shri Srimad Jagat Guru Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Vajasto Tadasata Shri Srimad Kola Churamani Sarva Shastra Siddhanta Vit Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Nitya Leela Bravishta Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Vadyasta Tarasata Shri Srimad Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Nitya Leela Bravishta Om Vishnupad Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitya Leela Bravishta Om Vishnupad Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Nitya Leela Bravishta Om Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Rupanuga Guru Bhargya Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Das Raghunath Sad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Saparshada Sriman Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. Sarup Damodar Ramananda Rai Ki Jai. Jai Vishvavaranyam Vishnupad Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Sri Vasadi Sri Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Go Gopi Govardhan Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Kalindi Jamunaji Ki Jai. Srimati Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Srimati Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai. Sri Govinda Kunda Ki Jai. Sri Koladeep Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Sri Hapaniya Dham Ki Jai. Sri Baman Paradam Ki Jai. Brajamandal Sri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Sri Purushottama Khetra Dham Ki Jai. Balaram Subhadra Jagannath Yu Ki Jai. Bhakti Vignavanasana Sina Singha Deva Ki Jai. Bhakta Pravaha Sri Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavad Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai. Akaramataraj Sri Chaitanya Math Ki Jai. Navadip Sri Chaitanya Saraswata Math Ki Jai. London Sri Chaitanya Saraswata Math Ki Jai. Tvadiya Shaka Math Ki Jai. Tvadiya Vaishnava Brinda Ki Jai. Samadvaita Vaishnava Mandali Ki Jai. Sri Harinama Sankirtan Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande. Hari Bol.
Good job, Mama.